Yo fam, Catholicism, sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's easy. A lot of the time it's somewhere in between, but for me it's the most fulfilling part of my life, more than anything else, and that encompasses all the activities that go with it. The prayer, the reading, the sacraments, the meditation, all the different components of Catholicism. And really the best thing about it is that it's a kind of unified whole, and all the different aspects of the faith form one coherent philosophy. So it all connects together, and it makes it very fulfilling, and really it's just a wonderful thing to explore, really. You know, you can explore a religion, your chosen religion, in great depth, and through the different aspects of it, like reading and prayer and public practice and all those things. So I would recommend Catholicism to anyone because it's so brilliant. And consider, for example, prayer. Now, my two main prayers that I'll say in any given day are the Rosary and the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Now, the Rosary is a great prayer because it does involve meditation in a vocal prayer. So you recite Our Fathers, Hail Marys, Glory Be, the Creed at the start, and the Hail Holy Queen at the end. And it takes about 20 minutes to recite the Rosary, and for each decade of the 5 decades you meditate on a mystery, and there's 4 sets of mysteries. There used to be 3, but a 4th got added in recent history, and so it allows you to recite a vocal prayer but meditate at the same time, and it's a great discipline, and a lot of favourable things have been attached to the Rosary. A lot of favourable promises from the Blessed Virgin Mary, and this means that daily recitation of the Rosary is very important for a Catholic, and it's helped immeasurably with my life. And then there's the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and that's it began in the 20th century, that prayer, but that's great for emphasising the mercy of God, and I just find that's a very consoling prayer, and it only takes about 7 minutes from beginning to end, and it uses the rosary beads as well, but it's a lot shorter because you don't have to go through an entire Hail Mary 53 times. It's a much shorter prayer form on the Hail Mary beads. It's for the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. And you say that for each of the five decades, and it's just a very powerful and consoling prayer, and yeah, I really like that. And then there's the public practice, or well, the sacraments, especially the Eucharist and the confession. Now, the Eucharist is something that every Catholic is supposed to attend. Every Sunday and every holy day of obligation, and there aren't very many of them. Only a handful of holy days outside the Sunday. And but the Eucharist is fine. I used to get social anxiety, but it's improved now. And I take some pills before I go in, and it sorts me out, just keeps me relaxed. And the other thing is confession, and confession is very important because confession allows you to remove mortal sin from your soul, and also confess venial sins, which helps on the road to perfection. But the key thing is to not have any mortal sins on your soul, because that's the condition for salvation, is to not have any mortal sins. A single mortal sin can result in damnation according to Catholic dogma. So it's very important to confess your mortal sins. And then venial sins, you should confess those as well. Probably spend less time in purgatory if you confess venial sins. But yeah, the sacraments are very important in a Catholic's life. And I was confirmed, that's one of the 7 sacraments. I was confirmed in 2014. And it just gives you, confirms you in the Holy Spirit. But the key difference is, if you've got mortal sin, you're not living a life of grace. And you've got to sort that out as soon as possible. And because when you're in the state of grace, everything is ordered towards God in theory, although venial sin might mean that you pursue other things as a sign of the imperfection of the soul, but everyone's imperfect, so there's going to be some venial sin. But everything should be ordered towards God as the final end and the beatific vision. And that's very important. But yeah, so you've got prayer, you've got the sacraments, and then you've got reading. There's not just the Bible and Bible commentaries and things. There's loads of reading, philosophy, theology, even Catholic literature like Dante. There's so much to read, because there's such a weight of intellectual contribution to the Catholic Church throughout the millennia that it's been in existence, and it's just very powerful to read all the intellectual arguments and all the exploration of the faith. That's crucial, really. And yeah, so all these things make it an essential part of my life. The prayer, the reading, the sacraments, and even the music, the art, the visual art, the music, and as I said, the literature. It all, even film as well, there's good Catholic films. It all just combines to create a unified theory of being, which is so helpful, because often people go astray with ideas of existentialism or nihilism or some really depressing philosophy that, or even just basic materialism, naturalism, that there's nothing out there and we just have to make the best of our 80 years and then we die and that's the end of things. But I know that's not true because I've been convinced of the truth of the Catholic faith, and that for me is the overarching reason for my existence, for my drawing breath, is to explore further the Catholic faith, and that's the thing that animates me the most and keeps me going, is to explore the Catholic faith. And this is before any ideas of marriage or career or foreign travel or any exterior kind of achievement. It doesn't make sense for me really, and the key thing is to explore the Catholic faith, and that entails a kind of inwardness and interiority of being, and although we should balance action and contemplation, but even an active life must have a firm foundation in contemplation, and this is what is lacking in the modern world, because obviously most people in Britain and America are non-Catholics. Most people in Britain are probably non-religious actually, or at least non-practicing, and that means that they don't have that I've lost my train of thought, sorry. They don't have that familiarity with a positive philosophy really, and it makes things a lot worse for theories of naturalism and materialism and that sort of thing. And I even have a skull on my desk to remind me of death, and that just reminds me of mortality and the fact that one day I will die, and that's not a scary thing because death is to be accepted. I think the worst thing possible would be a physical immortality, immortality of temporal life would be probably the most miserable condition that be possible really, because obviously with my philosophy and beliefs there is an immortality of the soul, and that goes into an afterlife, and that's why it's crucial not to commit mortal sin. And there is a temptation, often there's a temptation to fall into mortal sin, and that can be quite strong at times, and it's very important to resist that temptation and to keep in the state of grace, even though it just takes one confession to remove that mortal sin. But then you'll also be guilty of the sin of presumption, for presuming on God's mercy that you can just commit all these sins and then go and confess them. That's not how it works. And plus you're severing that state of grace even though you renew it later, you still sever that state of grace, and all that spiritual work is disturbed, and that's not a good thing. So yeah, it's very important to stay in the state of grace. And what can I say to non-Catholics? Well, yeah, see, the thing is with religion now, a lot of people think religion is nonsense or outdated, outmoded. They even think it's been disproven in a way. Although, of course, if religion had been disproven, then some very intelligent men that are in religious groups like Catholicism or the cardinals and archbishops wouldn't be subscribing to that faith if it was disproven. And really, anyone who studies religion in any level of depth can see that it's not the sort of thing that can be disproven. Not that it can be definitively proven either, and that's what atheists say. Atheists claim there's a lack of evidence for faith, and that's what gives them... It's a helicopter in the background, it's disturbing my train of thoughts. Wait a minute. Yeah, atheists claim that there's no evidence, basically, or that there's very light evidence for religion, or for God even. And that's really to take an entirely alien frame of mind, the scientific, naturalistic mentality that grew up after the Enlightenment, and to apply that to matters of faith. And it just shows a lack of intelligence, really. That they're not engaging the question on a proper level. They're just applying a mode of thought that doesn't mix with religion at all. It doesn't have any validity in religious terms. So you can't apply a naturalistic methodology to religion, because religion is supernatural. So it just doesn't apply at all. And that sort of thing is unfortunate, but of course, there's no point going into the long history of it now, but obviously since the later Middle Ages there's been a process of secularisation, and that has meant that people have become declimatised to religion, and they've seen it gradually as something outside themselves, something alien, and people have become atheistic over time, over the centuries, and now there's quite a large body of atheistic individuals, collective groups, and that's all very unfortunate, but it can't be helped. And as a Catholic, I often ask, how can I best evangelise? And the thing is, maybe a hardened atheist is very difficult to evangelise, because they're so caught up in their own intelligence and arrogance, or just in the very assertive belief that they're correct, that it's very difficult to persuade people otherwise. And yeah, so evangelisation, although it's a great ideal, it seems so difficult in today's world. because I don't think people understand the depth of religion and its intellectual roots and the solid intellectual and spiritual and intuitive truths of religion, and people just don't accept that anymore. So that's very unfortunate, but yeah, so Catholicism is a unified whole that really helps with one's life because it's all one coherent philosophy, and that's why it's so important to me, because it's just one coherent philosophy. And often when I contemplate certain truths, that's when I feel the most alive, when I feel the most in touch with my being, my most essential being. And often when I'm in the middle of a crowd out in town or something, and in a shopping centre or something like that, that's when I'm most distant from my true self, because I'm on a more superficial level of being, and it's not the authentic self then. Whereas in moments of deep prayer and meditation and contemplation, that's the deep authentic self rising to the surface, or you going down into the depths of your being, to the soul, the heart and soul of your being. And I think that's something that's worth dwelling on. So, thing is, atheists have no way of getting in touch with the interior of their being. They don't meditate or contemplate or anything like that, and they might reflect on certain things. If they're an introvert, they might be quite a reflective individual, but is that reflection just of a unprofitable kind, perhaps spiritually unprofitable, and it doesn't really address the true nature of their being, and that's something to consider. But yeah, I think I've spoken for long enough now, so religion is just like the key thing for me, absolutely the key thing, and it animates my life the most out of any principle, any topic, any activity, any thought. All of it is not as important to me as Catholicism. Catholicism is my worldview, it is my life, it's my reality, without being something that I'll be occupied with 24/7, but then in a way I am, because it's always at the back of my mind, even when I'm out having a drink in a pub or something. It's always there. And the experience with God I'll cover in a separate talk about how God is always there, and you can tune into God at any moment, but that's quite a personal reflection, and that's something that I'll address later. So yeah, I think that's enough for now. I've gone on for nearly 25 minutes, which no one's going to listen to this all the way through, but you've got to try at least. So that's my talk for today. Thank you.